Hello, and welcome to Salem Connections, a show about the people who make Salem work in their stories. I'm Josh Turiel. I'm hosting the show after 33 years living in Salem and 10 years on the City Council. We all talk about news and politics a lot on SATV shows, but we don't talk enough to people with interesting jobs or hobbies or lives. And we have a lot of politicians on the air here, but not enough ordinary people. So most of our guests will be regular people with stories to tell, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. Our guest today grew up in Salem, and he's worked in customer service and event management, but his passion is the wrestling promotion he founded and runs with a regular cast of local wrestlers up here on the North Shore. It's called The Proving Ground. And Todd Graham, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, man. Nice to come. Nice to be back in public access.
Yeah. It's a long way to get back up to public access.
I'm usually a regular guest on this one public access wrestling show with Leo Connors up in New Hampshire. And,
yeah.
And I when you were giving,
I've seen that YouTubed.
When you were doing the intro, I was like, oh man, I got you beat. I've been living in this town for, Jesus, I'm 38 now, so 38 years.
So I'm a carpetbagger, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, fair point.
Yeah.
So, you know, with all that, like, you grew up here. You're a Salem kid. Mm-hmm. You grew up wrestling in backyards and getting in trouble at school and all those kind of things. So what was that like for you?
Yes. Next question. No, I'll be the worst guest on the show. You know, it was just, I think, when I was a kid, I was very, very focused on what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I wasn't an academic, and I never went to college. It just didn't appeal to me. And now we fast forward now 20 years since I graduated, this year in fact, and I realized college would have been a waste of time anyway. So, as trends would show you.
Hey, I'm a dropout. It works.
Hey,
I started, but
they try to call me a has-been. I never was when I came to college. So, but yeah. So when I was younger, I fell in love with wrestling when I was 6 years old. When I was
what triggered that for you?
I think if I do the math around that time, I think it was Warrior Hogan.
Okay.
No, and the thing is like I don't romanticize that particular period of time in wrestling. It's just that's when I went, hey, what's this loud, colorful thing over here?
Yep.
And my father would take me out to shows at the Garden, and I'd get to see all that stuff. And then, it wasn't until I was a little older, maybe like, I don't know, early like 10, 11, like or an early teen area, where we would find out that there were local wrestling shows. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know what that was. In fact, I would argue that the reason for audiences not growing on independent wrestling, especially in this area, is that not everybody knows there's wrestling here, no matter what we do.
That's definitely something that has to change.
It is.
More people.
We poster, we advertise, we're online. I'm doing this.
Yep,
Our next show is April 13th at the Beverly Peabody Lodge of Elks. I think the biggest thing that would help us would be word of mouth. Everybody talking about it. So we do things to make people talk about it.
How does social media factor into that? Because I know, like, Proving Ground does a lot of social media promotion.
Yep.
How does that factor into things? What kind of following does it draw so far?
Well, I mean, if it's like anything else, inconclusive. I recently had to fill out like a registration form for a sponsorship with a local brand. We wanted to get Ghost Energy Drink on board as a sponsor. It's one of those long shot things, but one of the questions they ask is, how many subscribers, how many followers do you have on all of your social media platforms? And I did the math, and it was like close to 6,000. And I'm just like, man, if more than 150 people could come to these shows out of that 6,000, I think I would be happy. So I'm not entirely sure, to be frank. I know that back in February, we ran that show at the Black Box, and we sold out without any real advertisement, without any posters on the street, all we announced was we're doing a Rumble match and these are the people that are going to be in it, and that was it. And it helps that the venue that we were in can only seat 108.
Sure. But still, to fill it up is a nice thing.
I mean, yes, but not only that, but filling it up with like no advertising effort. So I'm not entirely sure if that was just our fan base our regular fan base, like they heard us talking about it in December and said, let's go for, stuff like that. So I would imagine that our social media is really important to the process. I just can't tell you at what scale.
It's like the old thing of the old canard of, half the money I spend on marketing is wasted. I just don't know which half.
Right, exactly. What's the trick to making $5,000 in the wrestling business? Start with 10.
Yep. So what you said you fell in love with this at age 6 and you knew this was what you wanted. So how did you start learning the craft, basically? Did you teach yourself like working the backyard stuff with your friends? Did you do a school? Did you some combination?
Yeah. The way I like to look at it is every little thing that I've ever done has built me towards where I am now. And when you're young and they tell you, like don't try this at home, don't do this in your backyard, et cetera, et cetera.
So of course you do.
Of course you do, because they tell you not to, so you do. And so I started doing that when I was a young child, just rabble rousing with your friends in the backyard. And then the first time we started committing it to videotape was in 1999. So that's 25 years ago now. And that's when I first came here, in fact, because this show is kind of a homecoming for me, because I began to learn how to craft and edit and storytell through editing the wrestling here in this building. And I don't know if it ever really made the bylaws or the rules or anything, but we got banned from wrestling in here back in 2000. So it's been quite some time. I still have the original videotapes for that, actually. So back in 1999, we started committing everything to video. And then in 2004, I left. I had a falling out with my friends because, we obviously took it way too seriously. And, it was like, there was a Monday Night War going on TV, so naturally we had to hate one another. Yes, absolutely. And so we call that the War of '02. And we always joke that it was like, that was only like 6 months of our lives. It felt like forever, in teenage years. So
everything's more intense.
Everything is more intense when you're younger. Now it's like, oh, another year has passed. All right.
Whatever.
So then in 2004, I left. Like I said, I had that small falling out with the crew. I left and I said, screw it. I'm 18, 19 years old at this point, and it's like, all right, let's see what we can do. And I signed up over at the Chaotic Wrestling School, which is now referred to as the New England Pro Wrestling Academy or the Killer Kowalski School of Professional Wrestling. I signed up when Killer Kowalski was still alive and teaching on the weekends. So I had a very brief period where I was being taught by the guy who taught Triple H and China and and all these people that came out of there, and local legends like Bo Douglas and Slick Wagner Brown, and Bo even continues.
Well, a lot of people worked with him for many years.
Yes, and a lot of people. I mean, my roster today, like Elle Valentine, she came from Bo Douglas's school. We're going to have the Hard Work Heroes in, Aaron Kadamia and Barnaby Combs. They're students over at Bo's place, the Bell Time Club. And anytime anyone asks me, like, where's a good place to start, I always in the list of 2 or 3 places I will always recommend Bell Time, because I think Bo has the right mindset and he came from the right person. So I did that, and then I wasn't there a long time. No, admittedly. I just don't think at 19, I think I was 19 at that time, I don't think at 19 that I had mentally what I needed to be able to do it. So not that I couldn't do it, it's just I felt like, oh man, I don't feel like, I had one of my self-hating moments where I was like, I can't do this. So I went back to my old friends in the backyard, messed around there for a while, and then I started working on this new project that wound up being aired on SATV every week, called Project Zero Wrestling. That was on for years, and about midway through the first season, I was coerced to go back to a wrestling school, and myself, Adam Nessel, and Tony Spencer all went to Maverick Wild's training gym in New Hampshire. Okay. And I spent some time there. This would have been 2007. I only remember that because the whole Chris Benoit thing happened while I was at practice. Well, maybe not while I was at practice, but it was reported on for the first time.
That's when everybody heard it.
So that's how I can tell you. It's like, oh, that's exactly when I was. and I went there for a little while, and I discovered. You told me, you told the audience watching that you usually have politicians on here. It's like you don't
Typically.
think there's no politics in what I do.
Well, let's say I don't. Although, granted, my first show was in fact the mayor, but we talked about Dungeons and Dragons.
Which mayor?
The current one.
Okay. Because
We talked about our Dungeons and Dragons game.
I'll give you a quick funny story about was it Kim Driscoll? So the last time we played, I swear it's okay for television. I swear. The last time my band, because I have a two-piece acoustic band called Familiar Strangers, FamiliarStrangersMusic.com. Check it out. I'm like Gene Simmons. I'm a terrible shill.
No, that's actually good shilling.
We performed. We performed at the Common.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago. And nice lady comes up to us while we're playing, and she's like, could you make an announcement that we found a wallet? And I just start, because I don't know this person, and I just start screwing with this person. I'm just like, did you open it? Is there any money? You know, do we have a name, you know, or whatever? I'm like, you know, and I'm like, so-and-so, come and get your wallet before your funds will be appropriated into the city building plan, or whatever the hell I said, some joke. And I said, and then as she's leaving, I say, let's hear it for the really nice lady from the visitor's tent. And then like 4 songs later, somebody leans in and says, you know that nice lady from the visitor's tent? I said, yeah. Did they find the person with the wallet? They're like, yeah, but that was the mayor. And I'm like, oh. Oh, okay. So yeah.
I'm having known her some time. I'm sure she was entertained by that.
Probably. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, her first year in office was 2004. Or she
close
was
to that.
because
2005, I think, is when she was first elected.
Which makes sense because the nonsense that I happened to live through my senior year of high school, which we don't have to get into here, we don't have time. By the end of it, the superintendent, the principal, and the mayor was out in the primaries.
Yeah, that would have been 2005.
And that was like my situation and a number of things just going wrong in the school system when I was there. And like I said, I won't get into it, but Kim Driscoll, wherever you are, you're welcome. Anyway, so back to the wrestling and the learning and everything. I've joked with a lot of people who they're like they like my wrestling and they respect me for what I've done and all that stuff, which I'm terribly not used to. I grew up in a very toxic group of people. But I just remember looking at them and saying, how long do you think I trained for? And they'll give me, you know, did you train for however many years? Because at this point, I had a 16-year-long career.
Yeah, you've already had it.
I've already had the career. It's done. You've seen me do it. I don't think I embarrassed myself. I think I did all right. Didn't go anywhere, but I certainly made an impact around here, which was what was important to me towards the end. And you know, a 16-year career, how many, and they're like, I don't, they're like 5, 6 years, and I'm just like 22 days in total between both wrestling schools.
So the follow-up to that is you have built over the years, you've built a very well-developed character that you've brought in, and I first saw you work probably close to 10 years ago or so, as your character, but
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you became you, so to speak.
Well,
what you've done what you developed that, how you kind of found the person that you are in the ring or on the mic, for that matter.
I mean, honestly, the character that I always played was just basically me, you know. And I think a lot of people in the wrestling business will tell you that your character should be you turned up to 11. And I'm like, well, I guess in reality, my character was more, if I were writing myself into an action movie, that's who I would be. And in turns, it didn't really stray too much from who I was, because everything that I've ever done in front of a camera, I have either been credited for or been willing to do behind a camera if I had to. And whenever I was living, whenever I went through a really bad breakup in my real life, it poured out of the show. Life often dripped into into the creative.
The lines are pretty blurred sometimes between the reality and what you're writing and what you're...
Right, like I had I had a really bad breakup with this one person, and I remember it was like 2 weeks later, I did a show and I'm in a locker room and we're doing this match, and I got to do this promo, this interview after the match. And during the match, I pushed my tag team partner. I was wicked frustrated, all that stuff. In the locker room, I'm almost in tears speaking half the promo in Spanish because she spoke Spanish, just enough to basically say, "My heart, I'm sorry." And I'm just like, and I did that, not that anybody watching, not that anybody watching would understand it, but it was for me. So it was
You're
just
doing the performance for you, and then it's just the audience generally is going to appreciate that
if they
see
get
the
it,
realness behind it.
If they get it, they get it. If they don't, they might ask questions. If they don't ask questions, that's fine. They know I'm hurting. That was the point. And doing stuff like that always helped me get through that stuff. So, losing my dad. If you were around during Elkmania time, Jack Kruger was the cancer I could beat up. And he took that role in my life very seriously, and he got me through one of the hardest times. So wherever you are, Frank, thank you.
That was a pretty long program you guys ran too.
I think we did 4 to 5 years. Begrudgingly from Atlee and Ryan, that's for sure. They're like, "We've done this already," and I'm like, "We're going to do it again." You want to make some money? Put a cage on us. So. And
yeah, I remember that cage.
Yes, me too.
You survived it. It was good.
I did. I did that match with a broken neck.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes, I was a photographer that night, as I recall.
I do.
So I was filling in. So again, and for those who are watching this who've never seen The Proving Ground or never seen that, if you can, I guess, introduce your character a little bit. Where did your name come from? Where did you dig in? All that?
The name's funny, and
because you're appearing in the little chyrons here as Todd Graham.
We got chyrons.
Yeah, he puts them in after the fact. Yeah,
lower thirds, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, I paid attention in editing class. So the name, my wrestling name for the last 16 years has been Derek Simonetti, and no, I'm not Italian. So and I'll tell you the funny story. So the last name, there's not really much to it. I was a huge Jackass fan when I was young, and I still am.
Oh yeah.
And I was watching, all the guys that performed on those shows had their own home videos. So I was watching a video from Steve-O, and he was talking about how he was, a professional skateboarder, and he would do skateboarding stunts. And then he said, yeah, and I learned most of what I learned from my friend, professional skater, Ryan Simonetti. And I heard that name, and I was just like, oh, that's kind of neat. I don't think I've really heard that name before.
There's a ring to it.
And then even if you Google today, if you look up the name Derek Simonetti, there's a fairly good chance that I'm going to be in that top 10, because it's not a very common name. And then the first name Derek, and I'll tell you where the genesis of it, and I'll tell you the funny story from only last week. And so the genesis of it is the name Derek was the name of a young person that I knew when I was 10 or 11 years old, something like that. And his full name is Derek Hollis. And when I was younger, I don't know why, I don't know what sparked it, I forget. I think it had to do with some clubhouse in my friend's backyard, I don't know. But I got angry with him, and he, in turn, became the first person I've ever threatened with physical violence. So as an apology and a tribute to him, I used his name in my professional wrestling violence escapades. And I
like you, so I'm going to be violent to other people with your name.
I'm going to do it in your name.
Yes.
So that one day when somebody asks me, hey, where'd your name come from? I can tell you how much of a jerk that I was when I was a young man. And with my 20th anniversary my 20th high school reunion coming up at the end of the year, I think it's at Longboards. Where is that? I've lived in this.
Wharf.
I was going to say I've lived in this town for 38 years. I don't know where anything is. And by the way, thanks to the lighting of the wonderful people on SATV, my eyes are crystal blue on this program. So it also helps the backdrop is blue. So it's
there's some talent here.
Yes. Turn on the lights, aim them. Got it. So we got the 20th reunion of my senior year, and I asked around to a bunch of people. I said, "Are we doing anything? Is anything been said?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually, there's a group on Facebook." I'm like, "Of course there is." So because yes, and I get added to the Facebook group, and I'm looking at the people that are in there, and I'm just like, "I remember most of you." And then I get down, and Derek is in the group. So I said, "Well, let's have a little fun. Screw it." Like, I don't care. Yeah, I posted, it's like, "All right, fun little trivia fact that I've never gotten a chance to tell this guy in person." And I tell the story that I just told here. And he responds underneath, "Well, that's screwed up," smiling, laughing face. I'm like, well, at least he's all right with it, Because it was never intended to be, crapping on him or anything.
No,
it was just, I liked the name.
You've gotten more than a decade and a half out of it.
I did. I got some use out of his name. It was either that or I think the name might have been Dustin at one point.
Gee, where'd that come from?
I don't know. Never heard of anybody named Dustin.
No.
Shout out to the guy who makes all of my shows happen. So thank you, Joey Warner. So that's where the name came from for the last 16 years.
So what you are now, you've been running this promotion some time, so you have a role that you play. You go out onto the stage. For a year, roughly, you were not in the building.
Yes. Hey, don't say it like that, Josh. No, it's fine. It's fine.
So while you're running the business side of the promotion, what's it like to actually combine the role that you play within it, and there's the role that you play on paper in the ongoing story, as well as the real life role that you play, and sometimes they mix and match, and sometimes they're completely different, like when you weren't the owner for a year.
Right.
And then the owner had to leave town.
Yes. I mean, it was, not to be too inside baseball, if you would.
A little bit of this is the people who are watching this probably aren't wrestling nerds.
No, they're not. Wrestling and creative with wrestling is about rolling with the punches. And we had a story that was set to go for a year regarding this gentleman who took over the promotion as, when I retired, and it was supposed to roll all the way through to December. December was actually the stopping point for the story, or October, doesn't matter. The long and short of it is we found out in September that he had taken a job in California. So that meant he wasn't going to be there for the moment.
The big reveal, yeah.
Right. And, once again, until the night of the show, there is no final script. So we got a chance to sit down, figure out what would work. And I would dare to say that what we ended up producing was just as good, if not better, than the original idea. And then, thankfully, he came back to visit family for the holidays in December, and it happened to line up with our final show. Yep. So we didn't get him for the pivotal moment, but we got him at the moment we needed him at, and we got to to close it out. We got to close it out the way we wanted. That was the story of my entire last year as a wrestler. Was I herniated a disc in my neck, C5, C6, in between there. I had done that in a match and didn't know that I had done that for over a year. And my doctor refused to give me an MRI for like 6 months. And it got to a point where I had to tell him, you need to give me this MRI, and if you won't, you need to write down that you refuse to so I can go to a different doctor who will. And then he reluctantly gave me the MRI and was like, "Oh, your neck's messed up." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, I didn't know that."
Thank you for that reveal.
Thank you for letting me know that the cortisone shot wasn't enough to fix what is now crab meat sticking out between two vertebrae. So I got that done.
Not even crab meat, the imitation stuff, surimi like.
It's the dollar store fish meat.
Dollar store crab meat.
I mean, it's surprisingly tasty if you don't mind all the seborrhea. Anyway, I spent a week there one night. And so anyway, I had to retire. Because originally, if you'll recall, I was supposed to wrestle Dick Lane. That was going to be my last match, or at least one of them. And because I always wanted to finish my career wrestling Mike Montero. That was always the plan. And when I had the neck surgery, I thought I'd be able to get another match in before I got the surgery. I ended up getting the surgery 3 days before the match was supposed to happen. So that was obviously off the table. So my doctor told me that I was cleared to go back to wrestling after like 4 months. And I was just like, no. That's not happening. Like, I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
So And not only that, but COVID happened, so it was just like, oh,
Everything shut down anyway.
I
so
mean,
you got some extra recovery.
I got a
time
minute,
as it worked out.
yeah. Because if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it right. You know, if anything worth doing is worth doing right. And we still did shows with no fans after a significant period of time. I think our first show back was in like November of 2020, and we did it at the best way I could describe it is it looks like a garage. And it was like a storage unit that this guy had turned into a wrestling building. It was.
I remember seeing some of the videos.
Yeah. The footage is out there.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore. But and rest in peace to Matt Grappo. He was the guy who ran that spot. He passed away recently. So thank you for allowing us to continue this thing we love. We will miss you. So in that building, it was literally like the weekend before, because they had like relaxed the COVID rules about how many people that could be in a room. Not guests, not paying customers, just like how many people could be in a room.
But you could put on a show, you could do and tape a show.
Right. So we did that, and then it was like 3 days later, and they were just like, no more of that. I'm like, all right. And then we came back in like March for more of those, and then we finally came back in front of people in August of 2021. So I had plenty of time to be able to relax. So when I came back, it was at the beginning of 2022. I told all the people that I was still working for at the time, there's a number of wrestling promotions, and I said, hey, this is going to be my last year, so if anybody wants to do stuff with me, do it with me now. And a lot of people, if I'm being honest, they waited too long. They're like, they're just like, oh, he's not really finishing up. He's not really finishing up.
Well, there's a long history of wrestlers not retiring.
I know, including me.
Yep.
I was coming back from retirement to tell everybody I was going on retirement. So
well, you like to do it on your own terms.
That was the point. The point was I was going to end it the way I wanted to end it. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't care what happened in any other place except for Proving Ground. So as long as the Proving Ground stuff was okay.
So that ties to something that I want to kind of ask. So Proving Ground has existed as a promotion for how many years now?
I think this is our 8th year. We started in 2016.
Because there was a lot of crossover between Proving Ground roster members and Elkmania, which is how I first found Proving Ground as an entity, because that was mostly what supplied those shows.
Right.
So 8 years as a promotion there. How, I know like the people who work for Proving Ground work for a lot of promotions in the area.
Yes.
There's a lot of promotions down the South Shore, down on the South Coast, up in Maine, out west in like Newton and places. How many promotions are these guys working at? How does everybody coordinate, and how does everybody coordinate their bookings?
It is very difficult, and shout out to the RWA because I'd be a liar if I told you that a majority of my talent that works for me regularly now, I met them there at the Chop Shop.
Down in Rhode Island.
Down in Rhode Island. So, and the thing is place never got the credit it deserved. And now RWA is finally, like, they're doing such good business. They're selling out their front, second, third rows so quickly, and it's like, all right, cool, because it was up and down for a minute. And when they were in their original building, it was fantastic. Then they got to their second building, and it was kind of overwatered down because there was other promotions running in there, including mine. That's where I had my first real live show with the Proving Ground that wasn't a taping.
I say a lot of Proving Ground shows used to run down in Rhode Island.
Yes.
Before you kind of got the consistent circuit that you're running here up in.
Before we got asked to run a show in Peabody and caused a lot of trouble with some people that didn't want us in town.
Oops.
Whoops. I'd like to feel bad, but I did the best I could to be nice about the whole thing. He didn't, so screw him. But arguably, I could have handled the whole thing better, but it's in the past and
Always.
It don't matter. But yeah, no, I got a lot of my talent out there, and fast forward to now, we've all been coexisting for 8 years, and you got, so like look at Mike Montero alone, PG, RWA, NCW, NRG in Fairhaven.
Say who some of these other promotions are, because they don't know the initials. They
right,
exactly.
It's
PG
all,
is Proving Ground.
It's all alphabet soup. I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's 5 or 6 different places that use almost identically the same people, and it does become a problem because there's only so many days in a month. Good news is like this one will run Fridays exclusively.
Yep.
This one started running Sundays. We're on Saturdays. We're not running every Saturday. I only run 9 shows a year, so that's of 52 weeks. I only have to work out 9 of them, you know, and it still has its trouble. It still has its problems, and but the thing that we have done to counteract that is we're all friendly with one another, which is something unique to today. Because when I first broke into this business, it was 2006, and everybody was determined to hate everybody else. Everybody was competition. The truth in 2024 is that there is no competition. There are people in every single town, any town, USA, every town that you go to, there are people that love wrestling, that have kids that love wrestling, and they don't want to pay $50 to $60 to sit in the nosebleeds of the guard.
No.
They don't want that. But I don't know how many people came to me this last show alone and said, you know, being so close and how it's so intimate, and we literally, it's a 5-minute drive and it's not Boston traffic to get home. I don't have to take the commuter rail. Like, it's right there, you know, so we are within arm's reach and we're available all the time, you know, so it's like, and we're doing, and I would like to believe that in 2024, the fact that we can all coexist and talk to one another and be like, hey, here are my dates for the year, because I plan all my dates at once. So here are my dates for the year. Feel free to work around them. We use a lot of the same talent. Sometimes it doesn't work, like I can tell you right now, and I'll give them free advertising right now. There's a wrestling promotion called APW. They're running a show on April 13th in Newburyport.
Atlantic.
Yes, Atlantic Pro Wrestling. And I am running a show, Proving Ground, you know, at the Elks Lodge in Beverly on April 13th as well. And, you know, we made sure to speak months ago about, hey, this is probably going to end up overlapping. I think of the dates that we shared, there was only 2 of them, and this is the second one. So I think everything worked out in February. We sold out, and they did well too, so everything worked out.
Yes, if everybody makes a buck, it's all good.
As long as we're all willing to work together, everything will be fine.
So a lot of, and so with the same revolving cast of characters too, do they, like, I know there's some cases where somebody will work as the hero in one promotion and the villain in another.
Yes.
I won't bother using the actual terms because they'll confuse people sometimes.
Right, it doesn't matter.
But so how does that, I know, stay straight for the most part? Because you'll have somebody who come in here and they'll be the absolutely hated villain. They go down the street 20 miles and they're the hero pinning up the whole promotion.
Yep.
So how do you manage to work that? And more importantly, I guess in a way, is how is that kind of almost schizophrenia something that the wrestler works with?
I can tell you about that last part real quick, because I can tell you when I came back to do my thing, I've always been the good guy. I've always been the good guy. I tried being the bad guy for a long time, didn't really work out. I'm just too funny and nice. So I wind up being the good guy everywhere I go. So it was easy that way, but that didn't stop the double life problem in your brain, because this is a Mick Foley reference. It's a joke. He says, when it was time to go to promo town, I would worry about losing myself. And what he meant by that was, when it was time, before shows, you have to engage people to want to come buy the ticket. They call them promos. Obviously,
Putting the butts in the seats.
Obviously short for promotionals. And basically, it's a 90-second to 2-minute long video of you talking to a camera, trying to convince someone that you're really going to beat somebody up at the Worcester Centrum Center on April, wherever.
I mean, promo is one of those terms that has crossed over into the mainstream thing.
Understood. Very good.
Because so many athletes in other sports have taken it up.
Well, yeah. You say Ric Flair to any group of people, and they will woo.
Yep.
So
people will woo.
And when I had spent time off because of the neck injury, I'd spent time off not having to, cut these promos. And then when I did, it was just like, okay, I'm starting to feel something. about this that's kind of weird to me, because it's like, okay, I am not this, but the character is, and the character used to be so much like this, and now it doesn't feel like it because it's been so long. And I'll tell you, it has been difficult putting down the sword and picking up the roses, because there comes a time in everybody's life where they have to realize that when asked the question, who's going to stand in the front line, the answer can't be you anymore. Everybody thinks they can be the hero forever.
Forever.
And they even like I'm 38 years old, so I'm pushing 40, and that's not old. But for my business, throwing myself at the ground and falling down a whole bunch with titanium in my neck already, it's not really smart. So like.
My titanium's in my legs. So
everybody watching right now, they weren't there Saturday night. Saturday night, there was a moment, you saw it. There was a moment where I threw the headset down, I stood up from the table, and I began to walk around it. And everybody in that room thought I was going to slide in there and start beating up Kellen Thomas. Instead, I chose to go to the locker room and send out 10 people that were far more capable to do the job than I was. And even though...
And it made for a better confrontation,
It made for a better confrontation. It made for a better story. And I wrote it, okay? I wrote it to happen that way. But boy, did I not want to.
Oh, of course.
Trust me, I
You
wanted
want to go in and be the guy who cleans house.
Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, just slide in there, get off my lawn.
It's one of those greatest cliches in the wrestling business, the lone hero who comes in and cleans house of all the bad guys and leaves them running and gestures at them from the ropes as they run away. And
and I was saying to my partner, who I run the shows with behind the scenes, I was just like,
this is our first call during an interview.
Don't worry about it. Maybe you can cut this out.
That's leaving it in more funny.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking with my partner about this whole thing, and I remember, we're talking, and I feel like sometimes he just tolerates me. Because I'm like, and then what if and he's like, take you out of it, like the audience loves you already. You don't need to do anything. Like, you don't need to fall down. And the more and more I think about it, it's like, I do not miss bleeding from my forehead every weekend. I don't miss...
At least you stopped before you got to the point where you could stick quarters into, like, the forehead creases.
Oh, no, I met the man who did that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Abdul the Butcher. What a nice man. When you get to that point... Nice man. Asked me to book him so he can make some money. No BS.
I'm sure he did.
Oh,
the guy will work anything.
Yes. But yeah,
give him a fork and get him to town.
What was your question? I do go off on these tangents.
It was
like
fine.
I do this. This is why I'm a guest on these things, because he doesn't have to do anything.
Exactly. I don't have to do any of the heavy lifting. It's easy. I just bring in a guest, let him roll. All is good.
It's a really nice table.
It is. It's very smooth.
Fleece.
It's a thing. It's
like a blanket.
I think they've gone up in budget here.
Oh, yes.
First got like one of those little paper, picnic table covers.
Oh, yeah. They go up in budget, and I'm still wearing this really nice Derek Conway T-shirt for the last
Another
6
guy
years.
who works locally.
Yes, and the thing is his family's local, and he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always a big thing, Josh. The outside the state talent and the inside the state talent. That's always an argument. Like, a lot of people will say, and once again, the audience watching might not, they don't know these names, but like a lot of people will say maybe me, Tony Spencer, Dick Lane, these guys that made a name for themselves locally, maybe they should be higher up. But I feel like this is a dance, and it's a roller coaster, and certain people don't fit those positions anymore.
And also, when you have a role like that, it's a question of how hard you want, how much you want it, how desperate you are to make it to that next step.
Yeah. Are you hungry?
And like a Dick Lane has a fairly good career as a local favorite.
Yeah.
In pretty much any promotion he works, the guy has trouble working heel because everybody loves him.
Oh,
and
that was your question.
The
dichotomy of being a good guy and a bad guy somewhere. Right.
A guy like Tony, great guy. Really, really great guy. people love to hate him.
Right.
I love to hate him.
Right.
You know, he has a great character that's just naturally smarmy, and he can talk it, and it works. And you always you tried to sort of work closer to the dark side a few times that I saw, and it never really stuck with people.
No.
They're like, I don't want to root against him. Sorry.
Don't want to dislike this guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that happens with people, and they're mostly, I know, have known a few people who've worked in the business and stuff over the years, and people generally like to work as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
They like to be the bad guy. It's fun. You can kind of let it all out a little bit, and then, but when the crowd won't let you,
Right. Well, here's the thing. You just learn to let it out in your real life. Like, I'm regarded as a fairly nice individual, but if you upset me, ask my friends. They know.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
But to answer the initial question of the dichotomy of somebody's a good guy here and then 20 minutes down the road, they're a bad guy, it's because it goes hand in hand with the same reason why more people don't know about wrestling locally, and that is they're not paying that much attention. You also have to know your audience, and my audience is what you would call a casual audience. They like wrestling. They like that there's a story being told, but whatever, they like wrestling. The parents like coming out and enjoying it because they like seeing their kids having fun, and libations. The kids like coming out because they like wrestling and they're like, oh my God, it's right there. It's like watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
sitting
watching
front
your
row.
superheroes and supervillains in person.
And that's why I think in 2024, the people that still don't get it still use wrestling as fake as an insult, and it's just like, duh?
Yeah.
But so's everything you like. The only difference is we don't get take two. If it craps out there, you're gonna smell it. You know, so it's I think it's far riskier than the mumovies, and it's
much riskier.
But it's a live action film.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're not glorified stuntmen. We're out there. We're trained professionals, and we choreograph
22
stuff.
days worth.
22 days worth of professional training. In my case, and you know, it's like there are still people that make fun of me because I'm bald, and I'm like, I got news for you, man. I have gotten a far higher quality of woman without hair than I ever did with hair. And if you've seen some of them old pictures, whew, man, not a good look for me. So the blade became
Murphy
the
showed
thing.
me some of those pictures from way back when. You had some hair going on.
Yes, I had some hair.
It was it was kind of Three Stooges-ish.
Don't Larry Fine me on this show.
You had a bit of a Larry Fine thing going on there.
That was the initial. Had to get rid of it, but yeah. So yeah, the big answer to that question is.
I went from a 4-head to a 5-head. So.
Yes, and I mean, Jesus, it goes all the way back. Can we get a camera behind me? Get down to my butt.
No, let's not do that.
Oh, all right.
Let's not do that one in. So with the one other thing I really want to kind of get into, and I know you do this to an extent that a lot of the guys who do these promotions don't. Like, I'll just use as a for instance, go into it. I used to, back when they were running back before COVID and before Dan passed away, I used to go to the Millennium shows down in
MWF,
Melrose.
yeah.
And they brought in a lot of guys for autograph sessions and stuff, meet and greets and all that, and they put on a very good show in the ring. But the show, there was not an ongoing storyline. It was just those are the matches that he was able to book for that, because these are the guys he was able to get.
Yes.
You saw a lot of guys who were in there before they became famous.
Yep.
And you could tell that some of these guys were meant for bigger things. But there wasn't a coherent story. You could go in and sit down and not ever having seen a show, and you'll see a show, and as far as you're concerned, it stands alone.
Yes.
You, on the other hand, build up storylines a long ways in advance.
Yes. And we feed it to people very, very, very slowly because people miss shows. I mean, I see all the online tickets, and it's all, majorly, if I sell 100 tickets, 80 of them are people that were there at the last one. So they know the stuff. And then, of course, we're now doing a better job with it. We call it Control Center now. So like a day or two before the show, it's everything you need to know or you may have missed in order to be caught up with what's going on. But at the same time, I think we do enough in the room that even if you weren't there, you can understand what's going on. And you can ask yourself, oh my God, did something happen before this? I'd better go back and take a look. Is something going to happen after this? I'd better buy a ticket and come. And I feel like you're right. There are a lot of, I refer to the promotions that do that as non-continuous professional wrestling promotions because there's zero continuity. It's an unimportant matter in the telling of their story.
Yeah, it's still a story you're telling in the ring. It's still a performance. It's still
good guys
it's still
and
a
bad
stack,
guys.
Yeah, still a stacked card in a lot of these cases, but you could walk in and see the show and then go back 2 months later and see another show that they run, and it's okay.
Completely different group of people, maybe 3 or 4. Like MWF, you'd still see Ron Zombie and Dylan Cage and those types of names at the time where that was running regularly. And they MWF, like you said, they were big in bringing in what they call names, which is anybody who's ever been in the WWE or in this case now AEW or WCW, ECW, TNA, etc. Bring in
guys who are coming out of Chaotic or other like larger regional promotions and like on their way up.
Right, exactly. You get a lot of the locals, and then you'll get someone like, I remember MWF used to bring in Paul Bearer all the time.
Yep.
So they bring in Paul Bearer, maybe they'll have a casket match that night. Hey, you put casket match on the poster, you don't care about the story. You're just there to see a casket match. That's cool.
You're there to see Paul, basically.
We just did that. Yeah. It was like we put ladder match on the poster and hoped we would do well, and we did.
Neither of the guys died. It was a good show.
Neither guys died, and despite the precariousness of that ladder for about 5 minutes, nobody in the front row got hurt either. So, damn it. I mean, thankfully. Lucky for us. We do that different for a reason, and it's because it's what I liked. It's what I would want, and I feel like the people on the shows try harder. If they feel like they're not just telling the story in the ring, they're telling a story to make people want to come back and buy tickets. And if they do a good enough job and we sell more tickets, then they can get paid better or whatever the situation is. You know what I mean? Like the story we did Saturday night, it was the culmination of a story that started in October of 2021. That's 3 years ago now. And we finally just put an end on it. The heavyweight championship story, believe it or not, has been going on. Not just since he got there. We have been telling this story now for almost 4 years. And we're finally getting to the apex of it. And it's like, okay, cool. And sometimes people, I believe you did as well, sometimes people will come to you and go, I think it's time to wrap this up. And all I can say is just be a fan. Just sit back and watch what happens next, because we're going to do the right thing and we're going to keep it going. Everything that we do in the Proving Ground is done with a lot of thought and logic. There isn't ever going to be a time where I just go, put it out there just to put it out there.
I give you feedback and then I buy my ticket.
Yes.
Because I don't know whether it's going to happen. I'm not worried about whether it's going to happen. I'm here for the show.
Yeah. You came to watch wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a bonus that and I'm not saying other promotions that don't do this don't care, but I'll say it like this. You're coming to watch wrestling, but you know that we care enough about our product that we're going to curate it in such a way that everyone's going to have a good time, and maybe they'll feel like the soaps and want to come back and see what happened. Oh man, Marge is in a coma. Oh, we got to figure out if she comes out of that coma, and they'll be back tomorrow. And then some people get mad and they're like, I did not like that the bad guy won the match, and I am never going to buy another ticket for your show until the next one. You know what I mean?
Until the next one,
Until the next one, because that's usually how it goes. We've only ever had to ban one person, which I think is remarkable.
Wow.
Were you there for that?
It was,
he was like throwing chairs. He was getting ready to stab a wrestler. It was great.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. I saw that one. I was like, I forget who I was there with, and we were just like, yeah,
That's a thing that happened.
That's somebody who really, really needs to dial it back a little.
Yes. Understand it from children. People in their 50s, not so much.
I mean, I'm a person in my 50s, and I can handle it.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't throw stuff, although occasionally I'm tempted.
If I'm going to throw stuff, I'm writing it into the script.
Yeah, if I'm gonna throw stuff, it's probably because you asked me to.
And then
Hey,
Todd kills Josh.
Yeah, hey, would you tell Josh at this point? Would you please, if you have an empty cup, would you throw it in the ring, please?
Yes, please.
See if you can get people going.
Don't ever ask wrestling fans to throw you a chair.
No.
See, I got conked with one. I think it was a Brunswick bowling chair.
Might have been the bowling ball. That hurts on the cell.
Maybe.
So, as we've mentioned a couple times, there's a show coming up.
Yep, April 13th.
It's the this the cheap plug time.
Yes, the cheap. Well, yeah, we're coming to the. Somebody gave us the high sign here. Hey, thank you. I was gonna say, get me on the one shot. April 13th at the Beverly Peabody Lodge of Elks.
Beverly Salem, isn't it?
No, they switched it actually. It's a recent switch.
We don't have an Elks anymore.
I don't think we do anymore. So the Beverly Peabody Lodge of Elks, April 13th. It is a nightmare on Bow Street. The Dream Master. Last one was Dream Warrior, so we're continuing the line. Our main event is going to be a Falls Count Anywhere, no holds barred championship match between Riot Kellen Thomas and the challenger Stephen Lust. And I'm going to announce it here. We will also be having a dog collar match, which for those of you watching that don't know what that is, and there's a good chance with what you usually talk about on these shows they don't, that's when both competitors are tied to the neck by a long chain and dog collars. Osiris takes on Delilah Hayden. So not only is it a brutal match, it is an intergender affair as well, because I feel that women's wrestlers aren't women's wrestlers, they're wrestlers. And I don't think there needs to be that distinction anymore in 2024.
And you bring in...
that's as woke as I'm getting, I promise.
The women you bring into the promotion can go at it just as hard as the men can.
Oh, absolutely. I tend to make... like I said, everything you see on my shows has been thought through and curated. If there's some people will come up to me and be like, hey, why don't you put so-and-so on the show? Sometimes I'm honest and sometimes I give the political answer, but the answer is, it's because in my vision, I don't see it. And that's it, you know? So yeah, April 13th, we're on the two shot. April 13th, we're on the one shot. April 13th, I can do this all day. April 13th, Beverly Peabody Lodge of Elks. Tickets start at $12. Front row seating, guaranteed seating, is available for $20. And if you get them online, they're $12.
The website is?
It is provinggroundstore.com. If you wait till the night of the show to get tickets, I can assure you general admission tickets will be available, but they'll be $3 extra. They'll be $15. So get them online.
You don't want to pay those extra $3. Just trust me on this. You want to pay the price online.
And it helps our budget to know what kind of money we've already brought in. So help us out, would you? Oh, family 4-packs. We're probably going to do that again. That's four tickets for $40. So you get them for $10 a piece.
So great. I plan to be there. It'll be a heck of a show as usual.
You know it.
All right. Thank you, Todd, for coming online. And
thank you for enduring me. Thank you,
I hope everybody had a great time, and see you next show. Thank you.